Welcome back to another episode of the Influence Economy podcast. I'm your host, Shayna Davis. I'm glad that you're here. But before we get started, if it's your first time here, yes, I'm asking for a favor before I give you anything. I would love if wherever it is that you are listening to this episode that you'll take a screenshot. And with that screenshot, I ask that you post it on your LinkedIn and tag me here at Shayna Rattler Davis. And then I just want to hear your biggest aha moment or your biggest takeaway from this episode. And the reason why I do that is because in my experience, far too many leaders, they don't necessarily know how to cultivate and build the external influence that the new world demands. And the more times these episodes are shared, the more likely people are to be exposed to the strategies and the ideas that are here that is really going to help them send the signals that they need to develop in order to lead better. So I appreciate you in advance for being willing to share. Let's get to it. Have you ever worked with a leader or knew of a leader that was brilliant behind closed doors? Like they were great at internal strategy, beloved by their team, maybe even a rising star inside of the company, but completely invisible to the outside world? Now, that might be a little drastic completely, but invisible to the outside world because I have more than once, and I'm seeing it more and more often these days, and it's not a good thing as we continue to move forward in the world that we're in. And every single time that I see one of these invisible leaders, I see the same thing happen. No matter how strong they are internally, their impact plateaus. Because the truth is that the market that we're in right now, that's shaped by talent wars, trust gaps, and tech disruption, companies can't afford invisible leaders anymore. Now, I'm not just talking about like introverts or humble leaders who don't love the spotlight and just that's just not their comfort zone. What I'm talking about are leaders who haven't built the skill of external influence, who don't show up in public with clarity, confidence, or authority. Leaders who have strong internal reputations but leave the company vulnerable externally because they're not out in front building trust, credibility, and visibility. And there is a cost to that, a very real, measurable cost. So, today I want to talk about what organizations are really losing when their leaders stay quiet and why strengthening external presence isn't just good PR, it's a business necessity. So, let's get to it. I want to start with this. The role of leadership is evolving. Now, if you've listened to this show before, you know that I am an expert in external presence, but you also know that I don't like that word. I believe that external presence actually needs a reframe. It's not just about how you show up in the boardroom anymore. It's not just about how you show up in the four walls of the organization that you're leading within. It's about how you show up to the outside world. It's about the perception that you are creating for yourself as the leader and the company that you represent externally, outside of the walls, in external engagement with external stakeholders. We're seeing a shift. Influence, as we used to know it, it used to just be about visibility, right? Like be seen, get noticed, but visibility without strategy is just noise. In today's climate, leaders have to be seen strategically. They need to be visible to their industry, trusted by external stakeholders, and they need to be recognized as credible voices on behalf of their companies. Because here's the reality: leadership reputation is now part of company reputation, and you can't separate the two. When a leader shows up, like on a podcast, they give a keynote, or they're publishing a piece of thought leadership, they're not just representing themselves, they're shaping how the company is perceived. And when they don't show up, the company feels smaller. It feels less credible, less trustworthy. Meanwhile, I can tell you what your competitors' leaders are doing. They are out there. They're on panels, they're in headlines, they're on LinkedIn. And I'm just going to be blunt. If your leaders aren't visible, you're not even in the room where deals are happening most of the time. And if you are, you're not securing the types of deals that you should be securing. If your leaders are out there visible to investors and potential employees, It's possible that your competitors are out there poaching them. It's possible that you're not gaining the traction that you could be gaining. Why? Because people trust people. They don't trust companies. They don't trust logos. They don't trust products only, right? So you're not even being considered if your leaders are invisible. You're not being trusted and you're not being chosen. So let's talk data because I know a lot of companies and a lot of leaders, they want opinions based in fact, right? They don't just want your opinion. They don't just want your feelings. They don't just want your ideologies or your thought leadership. They want to know the facts. Well, I'm going to give you some facts because the cost of invisibility isn't just theoretical. Like I said, it's measurable. According to LinkedIn and Edelman, 58% of decision makers say a compelling piece of thought leadership led them to award business to a company. 75% said it made them start researching a company they weren't previously considering. Now, flip that. If your leaders aren't producing that kind of content, showing up at that level, you're losing business, period. And it's not just about winning new clients, it's also about keeping the ones that you have. 70% of C suite executives said they've considered a vendor because they saw competitors' stronger thought leadership, right? So, again, this is not just about the company's vision and values, it's not just about the products and services that you sell. Let that sink in. A competitor's presence made them question your value. That's not a soft skill issue, that's a revenue risk. And then there's trust. According to the Edelman Trust Barometer, 68% of people believe business leaders often exaggerate or mislead. In other words, skepticism is the default setting nowadays. So, what helps cut through that skepticism? Clear, confident, consistent external communication, right? This is not just about communication training and media training, although the messaging and the ways that you frame your ideas are going to determine how you resonate externally. But when they show up and when they communicate well in public, again, like on stage, on podcasts, in interviews, they build trust. And when they don't, people fill in the blanks. Investors, they lose confidence. Clients get nervous. Employees start wondering if leadership really has a handle on things. Potential employees are like, not sure that I want to go work there. And trust me, it trickles down because it also said that 68% of customers who switched providers said poor communication was a factor. Still not convinced this matters? Let's talk about the cost of leadership turnover. Because invisible leaders aren't just a communication liability, they're also a retention risk. When leaders don't feel seen or developed, you know what? They leave. Especially your top 1%, you only have a certain amount of time before they leave. And when they leave, it costs you big. Because replacing a single executive can cost up to 300% of their salary. Even 100 or 200% on the low end is still a lot of money. So let's say you lose a VP that's earning $200,000. Between recruiting fees, ramp up time, and lost momentum, you're looking at a $600,000 hit. And that's just one role. Now consider this. U.S. companies lose $1 trillion a year to voluntary turnover. And leadership roles drive a disproportionately high share of that cost. And it doesn't just stop there. When a respected leader walks out the door, their team disengages. Projects stall, clients feel it, and all that institutional knowledge gone. Here's what no one wants to admit. Invisibility is a risk factor. Because if you're not helping leaders build visibility, credibility, and a sense of momentum, they will go somewhere else to find it. So what's the fix? It starts with expanding our definition of leadership. It starts with expanding our definition of presence and influence. External presence, it's no longer optional. It's a performance standard. We have to stop thinking of public visibility as a nice to have or a vanity play. This is strategy. This is brand. This is retention. This is revenue. Because the leaders who speak at conferences, engage thoughtfully on LinkedIn, show up in the media with clarity, publish strong, timely perspectives, they aren't just building their personal brands, They're building business advantage. They're helping sales win more deals, making it easier for talent to say yes, reinforcing customer trust, increasing investor confidence. And when those leaders are developed intentionally, the ripple effect is massive. They become ambassadors, multipliers, trust builders. That's the ROI of external influence. And like I said, your top 1% of talent, there's usually not a whole lot of places for them to go within your organization. So, demonstrating your commitment to developing them in this way is going to help you retain them. So, here's the mindset shift that I want you to walk away with. Internal influence, it builds culture, and that's great. But external influence builds credibility. You need both. And if you're a decision maker listening to this, I want you to ask yourself, who are your most credible leaders internally? And what would it look like if those leaders were just as trusted externally? Who are your leaders internally that are receiving executive coaching to improve how they lead internally? These are the exact same leaders and others that you need to consider developing their external presence as well. Because that gap between internal impact and external influence, it's where companies are bleeding opportunity. And in a climate defined by talent wars, the trust gaps are continuing to widen and we're continuing to be disrupted by technology. That's a gap that you just can't afford. So let's wrap with this. Influence isn't just about being seen, it's about being strategically visible in ways that builds trust, drive value, and differentiate your company. Invisible leaders, they may feel safe in the short term, but the long term, they're a liability. And the cost of doing nothing, it isn't just high, it's compounding. So if you want to retain your top talent, win more business, strengthen your market reputation, make sure that your investors know that your money that they've given you is safe if you're a tech company, you can't just develop internal leadership skills anymore. If you're going to win in the next decade, you have to build external leadership presence because in today's world, trust is earned in the public. It's the perception that is being shaped outside of your organization that is going to help you or hurt you. And leadership isn't just what you do inside the room. It's how you show up behind. It's how you show up beyond it. So I hope that this episode has blessed you. I hope that you will consider sharing it. I hope that you will consider thinking about what are the 3 leaders in the next quarter that I need to begin to develop in this way. And if you'd like my help, let me know. Shoot me an email. hello@shanadavis.com. Message me on LinkedIn, Shana Rattler Davis on LinkedIn. I hope that you will go back and listen to previous and future episodes as well. See you next time. Bye-bye.